Hey, what's up, fellas? How you doing? Man, Antonelli here.
Hey, what's going on, guys? How we doing? Man, Antonelli here. And today we're telling stories. And today's story is about the time I raced Jacoby Ellsbury. I've told this story one time before. I've told it a couple of times. It always comes up in our live videos, and people seem to think this story is funny, and so I'm going to tell it again for anyone that has not heard it. So, real quick, Jacoby Ellsbury and I were on the same team in the Cape Cod League. Cape Cod League is a summer league when you're in college. I was a freshman, he was a sophomore. He was playing at Oregon State, I was playing at Wake Forest. And it's a really solid league. It's for most, pretty good college players to go play in the summer, to have experience against guys. A lot of guys in that league end up getting drafted, and a lot of them end up going and playing in the major leagues. And so we're playing together on the Falmouth Commodores. And at that time, I don't know who Jacoby Ellsbury is. He's not like a big name player yet. You know he's a good player, but he got drafted a year later by the Red Sox. But at this point, no one really knows exactly who he is. And so we're playing, and it's very early in the season. We have a couple of games, and you can tell he's a good athlete, but you don't realize how just special of an athlete he is at that point. And so then we have a workout, and it's like it's almost like a combine or a showcase where they have a bunch of players from the league get selected, and you go and you work out together at this event. One of the things that you have to do at this event is a 60-yard dash. And a 60-yard dash is pretty common for baseball. Anytime you go to a showcase, that's usually what they have you run to see how fast you are. All right, and so for me, I was always really fast. And anytime I'd ever run a 60-yard dash against someone, I've always won. What they do is they put two players up next to each other, and they'll say, ready, set, go. And both players will run. You run 60 yards, they'll get 60 yards, they'll get you on a stopwatch. Now I think they'll do laser times, but back then in the old days, we used stopwatches. Okay, so that's just the setup of the story. So what they tell us is they say, all right, pick somebody to run against. And so everyone's kind of picking different guys, and Jacoby Ellsbury says, do you want to, let's partner up and race each other. And so I'm like, okay, but how fast are you, right? Because I want to have an idea. Like, I don't want to race somebody that's going to be super slow because I want somebody to push me to make me run faster. Whoa, what was that? It was like a dog just ran across my yard. That's Jacoby Ellsbury. That's how fast he is. So you want to pick somebody not super slow because I want someone to push me, but I also don't want to face like, Usain Bolt. Did it again. The dog just ran across again. What the hell's going on? You also don't want to face Usain Bolt, right? Because Usain Bolt's going to make me look like an idiot. And so he asked me to race. And again, I don't really know anything about Jacoby Ellsbury. You have to remember at this point, he's like, 19, 20 years old. He's not a big time player yet. And so I asked him how fast he is. And he says, well, I'm fast, I'm good speed, I'm all right. And I'm like, okay, judging by his answer, doesn't seem like he's super fast. I know he's a center fielder, and I know he's on my team, but he hasn't done anything yet that made me say whoa, this guy's really fast. Okay, sure, Jacoby, I'll partner up with you and I'll race. So everyone's going, and then it's our turn to go. And so he's in front of me, all right, we're side by side, okay? And so they say, ready, set, go. And I turn to run. And there I go. And, usually every time I've raced anybody, basically since I've been young, I've always won. I've never lost a 60-yard dash before. And so I take off, I cross over, I run, and I can feel myself get out to the lead. And I'm like, okay, in my mind, I'm like, okay, good. I'm going to win this thing. Here we go. So I start running. And after a couple of strides, all of a sudden, I can start to kind of see him out of the corner of my eye. And I'm kind of thinking in my head, he's kind of gaining on me here. And then all of a sudden, he just he's taking off and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I'm running, and he crushes me. It was kind of embarrassing. I was like, that's never happened before. And if I was going to lose, I always imagined myself losing by a step or so. But he beat me by 5 full strides, it felt like. So I finish, and I'm very flabbergasted at this point. I'm like, I don't understand what just happened. So we come back, and I'm like, after I finally my brain settles on what just happened. I'm like, Jacoby, what do you run the 60-yard dash in? Like, what do you, I thought you weren't that fast. Like, what just happened? He's like, oh, you know, I've usually run like a 6'2" or so. And I'm like, excuse me, 6'2"? So I run a 6'6". I run a 6'6" basically every single time. And a 6'6" is considered fast. If you're a 6'6" or under, then you're moving really, really well, okay? And keep in mind that I hadn't lost at this point before. The fastest I ever ran was a 6'5", it was a 6'5" or 6'9" or something like that. I ran it in Tampa when I was doing a workout for the Rays. And I've never heard of, you know, like a 6'2". Apparently 6'19" is this is what they claim, 6'19". And so that's like fastest guy in the league. That's like fastest human that's ever worn baseball pants. Not ever worn baseball pants, but that's incredibly, incredibly, incredibly fast. I've never heard of that before. You know, anytime I heard of a guy like really flying, it was like a 6'5". And so he was like, yeah. And he's like, well, he's like, you know, and then he decides to tell me this story. He says, you know, as a kid growing up, he's like, me and my brother, in our backyard, you know, there used to be deer. There would always be deer like running, kind of like that dog that just ran across my yard twice. He's like, and so, you know, me and my brother, we used to chase the deer. And I was like thinking like, oh, interesting. You ran after deer as a child. Okay, good. There's the dog again. And he's like, yeah, he's like, and then one day we were chasing it and I caught it. I was like,
geez, you know, that information might have been a little more useful to me yesterday.
This information would have been useful yesterday, or at least 5 minutes ago. Why do you wait to tell me that you chased deer as a child and caught one after we raced? Because if he told me he chased deer and caught it before we raced, I would not have raced him. I would have chosen somebody a little heavier and a little bit slower looking.
Once again, things that could have been brought to my attention yesterday!
And then the next year he got drafted by the Red Sox and he went on to steal like a bajillion bases in the big leagues and had a huge year, then went to the Yankees. And basically in the big leagues, he was like almost impossible to throw out on the bases. And I will say later that year in the Cape Cod League, like we realized eventually like, wow, like now I'm looking for it. Now I'm like, okay, this guy runs like a 6'2". That's not human. And then you start realizing like he hits a ground ball to the infield and beats it out by 3 steps. And he was a freak show on the bases. I mean, he was the fastest guy. He's still to this day, I'd say the fastest guy I've ever seen on a baseball field. It was incredibly, incredibly fast, like lightning speed. And I got to witness it firsthand and he embarrassed me really badly. I'm still scarred by this, obviously, because I'm talking about it today. So that's the time I raced Jacoby Ellsbury, and it didn't go so well. And still, that's the only time I've ever lost in a 60-yard dash. Pretty sure I can't remember another time. And it was bad. It was real bad. That's all we got. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, give it a thumbs up, all that good stuff. We'll talk to you later. If you've enjoyed this video and want to learn more about building the elite swing, check out our new course. We have over 2 hours of content, almost 30 hitting drills. We break down the exact mechanics that you're going to want to implement into your swing. I've put the link in the description if you want to go check it out.